Mr. Pat Edwards. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well, Joey.
Pat, I want to know this before we really go anywhere too far. Have you ever tried to make a mistake on purpose?
No. I mean, I tried not to. Obviously, we always try to exceed expectations and do the right thing and try not to make mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was thinking more along the lines of like personally, I like to break systems sometimes. Maybe have that extra piece of pizza or something, and see what happens if if I'm able to come back from the edge. Kind of push yourself to the
Nice.
cliff.
Yeah.
Never find yourself tempting fate like that.
I'm always willing to kind of push to the next level for sure. But I try to do it kind of strategically. Probably the best way to describe it.
Well, so that kind of takes it over to talk to me about what's going on in the world of work comp, which is kind of a coverage centered around workplace mishaps and mistakes. What are you seeing happening there in terms of the coverage, and what should agents be kind of paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, work comp, a necessary requirement to legally required coverage. It's the largest, casualty line by premium dollars out there in the commercial space. It's also a situation where we're seeing continued deterioration of written premium associated with the line of coverage. It's a very competitive space right now. It's probably the best performing commercial line on the street right now. That in itself is pretty substantial. When you look at the P&C industry, and you look at the net combined ratios associated with the lines of coverage for 2020, which is a full calendar year, comp by far is the best line, which is for me an old hat player, kind of surprising, but it continues to surprise. It's running at an 87 combined on a net combined ratio basis. The next closest line maybe is auto at 102. And some of the other lines are running at 97, but yeah, by and large, a lot of the P&C commercial lines are all running in excess of 100. What I mean by that is for every dollar premium that comes in the door, you're expending $1.02 or $1.10 or $1.03 or $1.05 out. So you're losing money basically. So comp is running at 87, which is far superior. Hence why we're kind of the nicest looking house on the block right now. Everybody wants to buy us. And you have a lot of people that are bidding on the house. And that's what you're seeing in insurance. A lot of people are bidding on the worker compensation placements. And so a lot of capacity, a lot of price reduction. And that's what we're going to continue to see. We saw between 2019 and 2020, we saw a 10% reduction in net premium. It was crazy, but we saw a significant reduction last year. We're going to see a significant reduction between 20 and 21 based on the filings that are going on right now that we're seeing by each individual state. We're probably looking at another 8 to 10% just pure base rate reduction in 2022. It's a tough time to be in the work comp space as a producer, a broker, but it's a great spot to be in if you're an insurance buyer.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the thing, generally disruption is what allows sort of agents to sort of sneak in there, pick up some more business. What does work? What greases the wheels? What gives them sort of the advantage to get in there to pick up some more business during this time? Because delivering price reductions is pretty easy business. Anything that stands out in terms of ways to sort of for agents to pick up some more business?
Well, I mean, work comp, it's a necessary evil. It's a requirement. It's something that insureds need and have to have. It's also a line that is very price sensitive. So price is a big motivator to the insureds. I would also say that, it's the ancillary benefits and service platform that also helps insureds. And again, a lot of it is predicated on what is the need of the insured. So, I mean, from an agent standpoint, you're looking at, well, what is the need of my client? Is my client a standard lines comp placement? Is it a specialty comp placement? Is it borderline going into the assigned risk program due to losses or hazards or a combination of both? Yeah, it's really a situation where you have to identify what the needs are. If you need to go to maybe a market that'll do and provide those necessary improvements to the risk, to the insured so that they can better themselves and become a better player. Because a lot of insureds are looking to keep their people productive, producing, not injured. And so the question is, do you have the right platforms in place to mitigate potential for loss, the right risk management platforms? Some of the carriers that are out there are better than others in how they handle that. Some of them are just, we provide a price solution, we give some baseline support, and here you go. Others will do a full boat risk improvement process, a return to work process, myriad of different processes to help the risk improve. And that's really what is incumbent on the agent to really assess the needs of their client and working with the right producer or broker, or from their vantage point, the right carrier to get that result.
Is there a particular industry that you prefer to deal? I wouldn't say prefer to deal with, but you find generally things goes more smoothly with, just maybe just based on makeup of the organization. Is there one area that if you had to sort of give a recommendation to agents that hey, maybe check out this industry if you haven't dabbled in trying to get the comp there?
Well, no, that's a difficult question from the vantage point that, I mean, there are what I would call more vanilla classes, whether it's an office class, whether it's some baseline class that doesn't have a lot of high hazard. It's pretty low hazard nature. Rates are relatively low. Where we play in our space at RPS is in the tough to place comp area. We're in the debit mods, the high debit mods, risks that have a little bit of hair to them that we need to work with to try to help find that improvement so that they can maybe move from the specialty comp arena to the standard comp arena. It's just, that's kind of where it's at. So we're working on the high hazard classes, the real difficult risks, potential occupational disease exposures or other types of exposures that a lot of the standard, more vanilla oriented players won't entertain. We also work with those risks, those insureds that don't have proper programs in place. We work to help initiate those safety programs, approaches to help the risk improve, get their losses under control, get their loss modification factor down to show improvement to, again, potentially remarket themselves into a standard market focus. It's kind of where we play.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is there anything else that kind of goes into that process to, like you said, or what? I guess what should agents be looking for if they have maybe a account that's on the edge there? If they're just sort of maybe they don't have it in the right spot, maybe it does need to move over to specialty. And then what can they expect to get out of that? To go through that process to maybe have a shot to get back into the standard market.
A lot of retail agents will run across their standard markets. The standard markets the underwriter may tell them not interested in the comp because of the hazards, the loss picture, whatever. It's not something we want to entertain. You may need to find another alternative market to entertain the comp. We'll write the rest of the lines, but we're not interested in the comp. It could be, for example, a Travelers or a myriad of different markets that won't extend out to the comp, and then we'll entertain the comp. And then we'll work on the comp, help the insured improve, do what's necessary with our specialty comp markets, and then it may be a situation where that Travelers or other underwriter may say, you know what, I want to extend out now and cover the comp as a part of the entire program that I'm offering.
You'd mentioned talking about sort of managing that risk a little bit and sort of mitigating it. What are you seeing from like in the actual workplace to, there's a lot going on. We'll say telematics is the buzzword, sensor data to help sort of identify these areas. Anything that maybe differs from the standard market to the specialty market that agents should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of what the carrier's focus is on risk improvement. Is it a situation where they just go out and inspect and find out what they have on the books, or are they committed to working with the insured, their safety director, whoever, to help improve the risk? A lot of times when we look at risk, they're in tough straits. They have issues. And we look to correct those issues and put the right programs in place through our carriers, through what they offer through their service of options, loss control, whether it's, other types of programs in place to help the insured manage themselves as well as improve themselves. And that's kind of what we're focused on.
Maybe you're an agent that has only played with sort of the safer stuff, the more vanilla things that does find its way to the to standard lines of things. Is there something that you think maybe is prohibitive that they're intimidated by to maybe go after something that's a little tougher? And if so, how do they sort of start to work their way into that? And sort of what's the risk reward, the benefit on the backside once they do finally sort of take that plunge?
Whew. Well, part of it might be the knowledge factor of the agent in question. That's another consultative element that we provide is maybe our knowledge of that space, whether it's the actual risk space or what the entity in question is doing. There are a lot of retail agents, depending on size and scope and capability, that may not have been exposed to maybe that risk type, and we can maybe bring some value in terms of our knowledge of having worked on insureds in that space to find a solution that's best for them and for their client. That's kind of ultimately what we do because we're basically an extension of the marketing efforts of our retail agents, and we're trying to find the right market mix that is beneficial to their client and will get the desired result.
Now, so you sort of mentioned that work comp being in a pretty decent position right now. What do you expect, for renewals, coming in with, price reductions and things like that? Do you anticipate that to sort of hang around for a while? I mean, what is that conversation agents should be preparing to have with their clients, and what should they be telling them about what's coming?
It's going to be a tough market, in terms of, from well, actually, I should stand corrected. It's going to be a great market for insurance, I think, based on where rates are going, based on the competitive nature of the comp space, the capacity that's out there, which is significant. It's highly competitive, which means you're going to have a lot of people taking interest in your account. So from the comp line standpoint. So yeah, I think that's not going to go away for a while. Obviously, COVID didn't have the material effect of impact to the work comp line that a lot of folks thought it was going to have. 75% of the claims were time loss claims. So you really didn't have that heavy severity or heavy impact that everybody thought was going to happen. And in addition, claims frequency significantly reduced, the severity aspect reduced. Net effect was kind of a wash, kind of an improved market position. Again, COVID did not impact and have the desire of shifting and moving the needle to more of a firmer market position. So that's kind of where that's at. Now, there could be some long tail effect of individuals who caught COVID and subsequently got vaccinated, but they already have been impacted by having caught COVID. And down the road, there could be some, ancillary issues that could arise for that individual that could turn into a potential work comp claim. So you have that long tail effect of COVID that can come back and rear its head down the road for employees of the firm. So that's something that obviously carriers are taking a look at. We're all taking a look at. It was real interesting when you really looked at the amount of loss in 2020. It was only about $460 million of reported COVID-19 claims. So, I think it was like 45,000 claims. It wasn't of anything of significance that a lot of people thought it was going to be. That's why the comp line has kind of corrected relatively quickly. Some of the states that were originally going to have increases in their rate filings for 2022 backed off those increases and have turned into reductions, like California. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy, just the sheer number that we're seeing right now in terms of rate reductions. Tennessee, for example, has had 8 to 9 years of rate reduction. Oregon just had their ninth straight reduction in rate. So when you look at a state like Tennessee, I mean, we're at 60% plus of where the rate was 8 to 9 years ago. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of other states, is that these rates continue to come down. It's going to be some point where we're going to hit the break even and then things are going to start shifting. But at this point, the states are seeing the numbers from the various bureaus, whether it's NCCI or the respective state bureaus, and they're basically pushing for rate decreases for the constituents.
You brought up an interesting point, with again, kind of the trend seeming to continue. Is there something we talked about, trying to get in and get new business, but what about on the other side? A good defense is sometimes the best offense. What do you think should be done there to sort of ward off anybody trying to, sneak in and come after any of these accounts?
Well, I mean, one thing to do is from a retail agent standpoint is communicate with your client, uh, keep them up to speed with what's going on in the marketplace. From my vantage point and from a lot of carrier standpoints, we're going to try to get out at the 90-day mark, 120 days out prior to the effective date to see what we can do about what the marketing situation is going to be, what the needs are, what the targeted anticipated needs are of the insured. We'll try to pull early and take the account out of market so that it doesn't turn into a feeding frenzy in certain respects as we see it coming into 2022. We're already seeing some unbelievable heavy downward pressure on price here in the fourth quarter of 2021. And we anticipate that should continue into 2022.
Pat, if you had to sort of leave agents with maybe one thing that maybe stands out above everything else that we might have gone over, is there something that you would say if you had to focus on one thing, this is I think is the most important for you to do well when it comes to work comp?
I think you need to focus on what the true need of your client is. I think the number one thing is when you're working on an account in the work comp space, what is your client's ultimate need? Do they have a poor loss record? Do you need to focus on finding the right requirement to get that under control? Is it a situation where it's just the exposures are high hazard nature? Are you finding the right mix of markets and bringing a lot of options to your client? That's something. Do you have the markets, or do you need to go elsewhere to extend to get the right market mix for your client? Get those options on the table. And then really, I think the key cornerstone is really evaluating the safety programs, the various arrangements that are in place, and do those need work? Do they need improvement? And talking to your client to find out what are they looking for? What do they need? What do they perceive that they need for their operation that maybe they're not getting from the current carrier that is on the program, or just something that they feel that they need, whether it's coming from the decision maker or whether it's coming via the safety director of that respective firm.
All right, Pat, I've got 3 more questions for you, sir. And the first one, very simply, what is one thing you hope you never forget?
I think the one thing I don't want to ever forget is the value that over my years of working with sub-producers and retail agents, how I've been able to help them and their clients improve upon and, provide a relevant difference for those folks.
Now, on the other side of that, Pat, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
Well, for me, it's trying to integrate all the changes in InsurTech and all this state-of-the-art kind of that IT element into the mix of, improving risk and utilization of that, the wearables, all the different things that are being incorporated into the process of helping risks manage themselves and manage the process. And I think that's the thing that I'm always just, it's crazy because when I started in the industry 30 some years ago, there was nothing in that light. It's just amazing to me to see the progression of the tools that risks have now to help them. And I'm just trying to stay on the pulse of all the different things that are going on. It's pretty mind-boggling to myself. And that's the thing that I want to stay close to and continue to learn and grow with that.
All right, Pat, last question, sir. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up really any part of insurance, what is that thing? Where is it going? And what is it doing?
I mean, obviously, the whole progression of InsurTech with what's going on with the various online platforms trying to disrupt the traditional approach to doing business. It's kind of interesting to see how that whole process is integrating into the insurance process for commercial insurance. So, I mean, that's the thing that I find kind of intriguing and interesting and that I'm watching very closely.